My
Hey,
phone is on
Juventini,
airplane
welcome
mode.
back to the All Juvecast. This is episode 139. And yes, it is coming live. So, for those of you who have been listening to the podcast on audio, only keep in mind we are now recording these podcasts live. So, if you've ever disagreed with anything or wanted to share your views, you can join us live on YouTube and be part of the discussion now moving forward. Yeah, we are going to cover Sampdoria versus Juventus, which ended up in a 2-0 victory for Juventus. And if you watched the match day live, that was my prediction. Mine as well as Eric's. We called 2-0 for Juventus, and lo and behold, that's what we get. And today, joining me to cover it is Omer. Omer, how are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Bright and early over here, and always nice talking about a victory. You and I kind of talked about it beforehand too. You said usually you get some bad luck when you join on the podcast with the results or whatnot, but we got a victory now, a fun one to talk about, and this was just a cool match to watch. It was cool in terms of how Juve was seemingly progressing. But it was cool because it was at Sampdoria. It was raining. The rain got harder and whatnot. It was just the performance too was cool. When we used to talk about beautiful performances, and everybody thought it's got to be 5-0 thrashings to be a beautiful performance. This was a beautiful performance by Juventus. Yeah, it was great to see. But we're gonna cover it all. We're gonna start off with the lineups, Omer, and right off the bat, Antonio saying, "Hey guys, I know it's a bit early, but I'm opening the prosecco and limoncello to see Sammy on his way." Yeah. So news breaking out today about Kadir, and we're definitely going to talk about that for sure. That's so good, so good. Omer, we'll kick it off with the lineups going into Sampdoria. A very, very strong lineup, which was expected because we can't afford to drop any points in the Serie A race anymore. And I expect another strong lineup on Tuesday in the Coppa Italia versus Merda. But we had Chesney, Quadrado, Danilo, Bonucci, and Chiellini, with McKennie, Bentancur, Arthur, Chiesa, Morata, and Sierra. The big one was no delay. A lot of fans upset that he wasn't playing, and some saying that he would be upset with it and he's not here to play a rotation player and all this. But these guys are professionals. There's so many games here and there. He just came back from COVID as well. He needs time to recoup. I think he's not going to have an issue. He knows he's the future. I can't see any problems being there. And we've got not only a match with Merda as well, but then you've got Roma, another tough match right after that. I expect Delict to play on Tuesday and then play against Roma as well. Chiellini needs to be managed. It probably made the most sense to go with him in this one, but he's also created a bit of a situation where you can easily say Bonucci should be the odd one out. But I want to get your thoughts on this lineup going into this match and what your frame of mind was in terms of no Delict either and what you thought.
Well, I like the lineup. Pirlo didn't hide it. He said it before the match that the league wouldn't start because we have Merda coming up. And other than that, it was probably our strongest lineup. We don't have Dybala, we don't have Kulusevski, so there were no other options up front. So the midfield was what we all expected, and it's good to let them just run a bit together every now and then. I know it's tough because we play every 3 or 4 days, but whenever we get the chance, it's important to let them play together. That was a problem in the beginning of the season. It's a problem for all the teams across Europe. especially for new managers like Pirlo or like Lampard. Maybe it's his second season, but he's not at Chelsea anymore. But he had that problem this year and last year, so it turned out good, obviously.
Yeah. And what did you think was going to happen with the scoreline here? Did you think we'd maybe drop a few points, maybe get a draw or something, or were you expecting victory the whole way?
I don't know. Sampdoria are nothing to scoff at. They're a good team,
Yeah.
especially at home. And I was kind of expecting a win, but a draw wouldn't have surprised me. I thought a draw against Sampdoria, like they beat Inter, they beat Napoli, I believe, this season. They're not a small team, they're not a weak team, and on their day, they're a really tough opponents. So it turned out good. I like the way it turned out.
Nice. Absolutely. And Georgia coming in here with his comments saying, great lineup, consistent selection aids in building chemistry. Absolutely. And it's something that we're starting to see in the midfield, especially. And we will definitely get to the midfield here. We'll start off with the recap of the first half here. And man, it was about 10 minutes in. And I remember thinking to myself that early in this match, Bentancur looks on. He looks on right now. Like his passing was crisp, clean. He was just moving very, very well. And I was like, wow, he looks up for it. CR7, 12th minute, very, very nice build up, a very nice pass back from McKennie right to his feet there. Ronaldo struggled, couldn't settle it properly. And then we continue moving on. We're still in control. Juve was controlling the play, dictating very, very nicely. And then in the 19th minute, we get just really some great passing. We worked hard to win the ball back. Cuadrado wins the ball back. It falls to Bentancur. Bentancur slots it to the forwards. Between Morata and Ronaldo, they do very well to slip in behind Sampdoria's defense. Morata with a great ball across, and Chiesa, Freddie Church, money on the spot. Eyes were going to be on him too, because a lot of us believe he's much better on the right side as opposed to the left. So we were going to see if we can get him firing and see if he can play as well on that left side. And there you go. He breaks it open for us in the 19th minute with a great goal. Some nice passing. Very, very good start from Juve, and positive start to that half. As the half continues on, Juve still controlling. Maybe a couple little short sections where Juve looked a little bit vulnerable, but nothing really crazy or worrisome coming out of it. And then you get to 38th minute, CR7 in a very, very good position, just at the top of the area there, letting a shot go that gets deflected and ends up just going over the bar. Odero, I think, just got tips to it too. Good dip and hard shot. And then a minute later, CR7 is all alone, sent in very, very nicely as well. All alone. Odero, credit to him because he played it very, very well. CR7 goes with a shot fake just inside the top of the area, and Odero didn't bite for a split second and hung with him the whole way. And CR7 ends up putting it out at the end. The only thing, even though Odero played it so well, I would have liked to see Ronaldo not end up with that shot attempt from way out there at that angle and maybe hang on to it. He could probably beat him 1v1 at that point when it's just him and Odero, maybe cross it back into play to a teammate. You can't help but feel you got to do a little bit better on those ones, right? But we end up the half. Really just a great first half. I thought the match was solid. We controlled it always. The midfield was doing very, very well for us. Both Arthur and Bentancur were fantastic. And we limited Sampdoria, limited them quite well, and we could have been up by a couple. So I was very, very happy at the first half. And your thoughts at halftime there, Omer?
Well, I thought Bentancur was our best player. He also delivered that ball to Ronaldo that left him in front of Aldero. I think the pitch, the rain made it a bit difficult, and you could see it by the passing and the shooting and trying to control long balls and even short passes. I don't think it's because of the players, but felt pretty confident but cautious because I noticed when we're going at halftime with the lead, then we tend to get our foot off the gas a bit in the second half. But all in all, Chesney had nothing to do. He could have literally sat inside his area and do nothing, and that's a good showing. Kind of reminded me those Allegri type matches where we get the lead and we're good with it, but our defensive game is still very good and very solid. And maybe that's because of the presence of Chiellini. He was like I watched him and I watched how the defense move around him, and he's like a pivot in the middle of the defense. Even if he doesn't move around a lot, everyone knows what to do according to his movements.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty confident actually. It didn't feel like Sampdoria are getting closer to anything.
Yeah. And then Antonio coming in with great timing on this one, because as you speak about Chiellini here, did anyone notice yesterday that Chiellini was playing in the heart of the defense with Bonucci on the right? I've seen this before, and I think Pirlo doesn't trust him in there anymore. We did notice definitely Chiellini was in the heart of it, and Bonucci was over to one side with Danilo kind of being the one on the other side. And I think possibly it's tough to say, but I don't know if it's a trust thing or it for me, the trust isn't there with Bonucci, to be honest, if I'm being honest. But if you noticed, we scored a goal with earlier in the season with Danilo putting a beautiful aerial ball from that position. And I think the idea is more to get Bonucci out there for that. And we saw a lot of aerial passing from the back in this match against Samp. We saw it a few times out of Bentancur in the middle, and we saw it a couple times from Bonucci. I think it's more in terms of where Pirlo wants the guys that can make those passes. And it makes sense because Chiellini's not that guy. So you throw Chiellini in the heart and you get the other guys on those sides there that can actually make those passes like Danilo can and Bonucci can. So that's what I think in terms of that. I don't necessarily know if it's a trust thing. To be honest, if it's a trust thing, I think that will come up sooner rather than later as these tough matches start to come in, because as we Roma, Napoli with another second leg in that semi for Coppa Italia. So we'll definitely see, in my opinion, if Pirlo is lacking trust for Bonucci. What do you think about that, Omer?
I think Pirlo is looking for that third defender to join the attack, because we see Danilo run upfield, and not once, not twice in a game, and Bonucci does that a bit less. But I don't think Chiellini is up to it anymore. He should stay back, and when Demiral plays, he also does that, but Danilo does it best because he's a right back, he's a natural right back, so he has the pace and he has the ball control. But I think that's what Pirlo is looking for from the side defenders, and Chiellini is good in the center. He's good in the center. He's physical. He covers a lot of ground, like all of the area, and he's man marking the central forward for the other team. And Quagliarella might have got one sniff at goal all game, so he did his job. I think it worked fine. If the league will play, then it's instead of Bonucci on the right and Danilo on the left.
Yeah,
that's the way I see the defense right now.
You betcha. And shout outs to a couple guys. Good morning, guys. Marco coming in here with Artur. Yes. Yeah, Artur's been on a nice upwards trajectory. On the topic of Chiellini, as we're talking, this is just for fun away from the match here. I saw this question on Twitter here. does he make your all-time 11 for Juventus, Omer?
From the ones I've seen play, and not the ones I've seen on clips on YouTube, because that doesn't tell the whole story, then definitely he's my favorite center back ever. He's people tend to forget that he went down to Serie B with us, and he was already the captain of the Azzurrini, and he was a prospect. He was a young prospect that could have gone anywhere, but he stayed. He suffered through those horrible years between 2006 to 2010, and he was a left back. At the beginning, he just shifted to the middle because we didn't have anyone. We had a lot of injured players, and no one was good, and it was a revelation there. And I just love him. I just love the guy. You can't not love him. So,
yeah, I actually I answered the same way. I said, out of my time watching, Chiellini easily makes the all-time 11, starting 11. If we go, all time before my time, he's probably just outside of it with a couple guys like Sharea and probably Gentile or whatnot. But from guys I've watched, he's easily in there. But let's Antonio coming in saying he's not better than Cannavaro or Thuram for me, but you can't beat his heart and passion, and I would have him in my best 11 for sure. So in my best 11, I actually put Thuram on as right back because he spent some time there as well, and then I had Zambrotta on the other wing. Cannavaro. There's a lot of Juventini that show Cannavaro in there, but for me, I got Chiellini, and then a couple guys before him. It'd be hard without Montero, or even Ferrara was huge for back in the days there. But yeah, there's a lot of good shouts. We've been spoiled as Juventini to watch so many great players.
Yeah, but Cannavaro was there for like 2 years. He was there for 2 years, so you can't, put that on the same scale as someone.
It depends how you weigh the players out, right? It's tough to say that like strictly on playing. Cannavaro had the massive year in 06, but then after that, obviously he went to Real. He did end up coming back for a later stint in which he was nowhere near the form that he was with us prior. So
he was actually the same age Chiellini is now, and he wasn't close to his level.
Yeah. When Cannavaro came back, he was nowhere close to what he was before that. But the massive year in 06 was big. Let's go to the second half. And speaking of the man himself, Chiellini gets called into action at the 54th minute. And I watched this play as people really went after Bonucci. Now, watching this play, Bonucci basically steps to a man that really should be covered by a midfielder. But because we had lost the ball in the sequence in possession by Bentancur, okay, he slipped up, he lost the ball. Sampdoria starts to come back at us, building up. McKennie's still trying to track back because, again, that's how our offense works. You have your pivots, and then one of those midfielders slides up to become a link-up. So he's still trying to get back. Bonucci then makes a decision to step to this midfielder man. McKennie does get back. Quagliarella makes a pass off to the side and slips him behind. At that point in time, McKennie is still tracking back. So he either has to make a decision. Does he stop with this midfielder guy, or does he run back since he's the one facing Quagliarella's back and can track back in there? Or does he stay with the mid and then Bonucci's got to bust back there? There's a couple issues here. So Bonucci kind of stays up, squares up his man. McKennie stops. So Quagliarella gets the free line. At that point, Quagliarella makes his free line. If you watch in our area, there's one player from Sampdoria, and Danilo is facing the play. Okay, at this point, Danilo should recognize there's no danger other than that one player. Step to him, push Chiellini, because this one player is essentially between the two of them, push Chiellini to Quagliarella sooner, and this opportunity isn't as dangerous as it was. Chiellini still slides in there with a great block, a great tackle, but to go at Bonucci strictly on this play is a little tough, because he did step to a man that if he didn't, McKennie was way out of position, and he would have literally been able to turn and face our defenders from the top of the area. I thought it was a little rough to go at Bonucci for that specific play. But again, the rest of it, Chiellini ends up saving the day, making a great block. And then he does that celebration that it's like just as much as a goal. And I loved it. It gets me all pumped up, just like as if we scored.
I think he taught us to celebrate these kind of things. Like I wasn't used to celebrating this type of things, but I do celebrate them now. I feel like we've scored.
Yeah,
and that's on Chiellini. That's on Chiellini.
Oh yeah, man! And then he picks it up, and as a team, I mean, everybody got fired up. You know, Szczesny, Danilo, Bonucci was happy, obviously, but it was good, man. It was really huge play by Chiellini there. And then a minute later, Morata comes through, another nice aerial ball. This one was from Bonucci at the side, which is why I'm thinking Pirlo might start doing that and changing who's at the heart. But another great ball. Morata gets to, buries it, but called offside very late. But it was offside by quite a bit. And then we go through the second half. You could feel the let up in Juve. So not, as much throttle as we had in the first half, but we were still comfortable. I was still always feeling comfortable with Juve, still in control. And then 75th minute, we get Rabiot in for Bentancur, who got a very unfortunate yellow card. I thought that was a little bit unfortunate. But the refs, anytime something's from behind, they seem to be very quick to pull that card out. But I think it was... he was hard done by on that one, Bentancur, but he gets subbed in by Rabiot. And then in the 78th, Bernardeschi comes in for Morata. 82nd minute, Ramsey for Arthur, Sandro in for Chiesa. And 8 minutes later, really a great goal. A little nerve-wracking by Sandro playing the ball backwards towards goal on that stop, but Chiellini was there quickly passing it out to Bernardeschi, who gets it to CR7, who plays a great ball over the top, over to Cuadrado, who runs it in and slots it over to Ramsey, who puts it in, 2-0, take the points, we go home, everybody's happy. Job done, and I thought it was a solid performance. The first half, of course, much better than the second. We didn't want the let up. We wanted them to kill the match. To the very end, them to kill the match off, but we still controlled. The midfield looked good, and I think Pirlo's onto something. How do you feel after this one, Omer?
I actually feel pretty confident. You can see the progress with the team that's been made in the past several months, and I didn't feel like they're going to score at any point of the match, even when they control the play. And Allegri talked about it like a few years ago, that you can't press for 90 minutes straight. Then we'll have let-ups. Players can't play at that high intensity all game long. So if you back off a little but still manage to keep control of the game, then it's fine. I'm fine with it. And this was a very Allegri-esque performance, because we didn't have much chances, but we were clinical with the chances we did have. And no one was shining above anyone else, but it was a good team display, I believe. And everyone knew what they were supposed to be doing. And other than that Quagliarella chance, that was the end of it. Szczesny didn't have to make a save there. Like, we had one time we needed to be on our toes, and Chiellini was up to the task, and that's it. So the match was a good indication of like more organization and less players just running around, not knowing who they should follow or who they should mark. So that was my feeling, and I hope they'll take that to the next match, which will be a lot tougher.
You betcha. And let's get into some player performances and man of the match. I think if we ask Marco over here who is man of the match, I think I know who it's going to be, which is Artur, and I think a shout could be made. But for me, I had honestly, I had really close between probably Bentancur and even though he got subbed off there, Bentancur, Arthur, and Chiellini for me. One of those three. And I probably gave it to Chiellini, honestly. So who's your man of the match?
I
Omer?
think Chiellini as well. No, come to think of it, Bentancur was the man of the match in the first half. He bossed the midfield, and after that it was pretty much Chiellini. Arthur dictated the play well, a bit lacking in the forward passing, but he doesn't lose the ball. I
Yeah.
just noticed that. I look at him whenever he's in a tight space, he doesn't lose the ball when it's at his feet, and we didn't have that for a long time. Since I don't know, maybe Pirlo. Pjanic was good, but he tend to lose the ball, and Arthur doesn't. But Chiellini coming back after I don't know how long, and it took like 1.5 game to be back to his best former self, and you shouldn't just let it go by. It's not that common, especially for a 36-year-old. So he's the man of the match goes to him for me.
Yeah, me as well. And the thing with him is we're going to have to monitor him and manage those minutes just because, his history with injuries recently and just his age and whatnot, and could be catching up to him. This could be the final season. There's talks about another 1 year on the thing. But yeah, it's no coincidence that things start to solidify a little bit better while he's out there.
Yeah.
Chiellini, he makes a big difference. He's still got a lot to say in what happens with his team, I feel. And here comes Francisco coming in here saying he told everyone on Twitter, everyone was talking as if it was Rugani in terms of Chiellini. And yeah, there's a lot of disrespect going on, really. It's hard to call it anything else, but it is. It's a lot of disrespect towards Chiellini from Juventini, just saying we have to get away from this Bonucci Chiellini thing and these old guys and whatnot. But I would never put Chiellini in the same breath as Bonucci because I get a completely different feeling. I'm always confident in Chiellini, always. The only thing that concerns me about him, again, is what we were just talking about, which are the injuries, and keeping him healthy. But when he's good to go, there's not a worry on my mind about him and how he's going to perform. Bonucci, on the other hand, is completely different. Rugani, that's a hell of a whole another story there. But yeah, I mean,
But for the first time in a long while, I feel like we have all our defenses are fit, all our defenders are central defenders at least, and they're all good. They're all good. There's no one that feels like shaky too much to me or can make the starting 11. So, of course, Chiellini is in there. He's number one for me. If he's healthy, then he must play. But everyone else is fine. Danilo is fine. Demiral is fine. We don't have like a Rugani, you don't like seeing him in the starting XI.
Yeah.
And I like it. I'm not used to it. To having all our defenders fit.
Well, that's the thing, right? And while some want to get upset at the fact that De Ligt didn't play today or whatnot against Samp, it's just like, just think about the positives, and the fact that you don't have to run this kid every single match, even if he can handle it or not, and the fact that you've got the luxury to rotate these guys, even a guy like Chiellini. If this is the best thing for us, if we can keep Chiellini fit and have him going through this crunch portion of the season, that's fantastic. That's great for us. We have to take that as a huge positive.
Of course,
and
I think De Ligt understands that as well. He knows that. He knows who sits on the bench at Juve.
Absolutely. And Antonio coming in here with I still think in a key match, against Merda, for example, Chiesa should start on the right. He's more direct and naturally balanced on the right. Ronaldo needs to stay more centrally and stop wandering. So we are going to talk about Chiesa. Freddie motherfucking Church, all right? This kid was labeled as Bernardeschi 2.0 and all this, and everybody didn't want to see him coming. I always like this kid. I always appreciate this kid. Anyone that's followed the podcast for a while knows what I thought about Chiesa, except I never liked the price tag. The deal we brought in was a good deal, though, for him. And he's been big. He's been contributing, and he's always had the attitude, the right attitude. Always driven, always direct. Love seeing what he's given us. In 22 matches, he's already at 7 goals. He's got, I think, somewhere around 6 assists. For some contrast, Douglas Costa had 10 goals in 103 matches for Juve. Okay?
Yeah.
So, while Douglas Costa's got the flash of beating guys 1v1 or whatnot, it was always hit and miss with Costa. And on top of that, you throw in the ability for him to stay fit, suffering all the time. So Church has been, Freddie Chiesa has been amazing, man. He's been a great addition. Coming in here, we tried to tell him about Freddie Church, bro. Yes, we did. Your thoughts on Chiesa? Let's go back to Antonio's comment about in a clutch match, he's got to play on the right, because what I see posing a bit of an issue is how we use the defense. And the reason I say that is because it always forms a back three in the offensive phase. Always. So if you're going to create this back three, Cuadrado cannot switch sides. We've seen him on the left. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. He stays on the right side. Okay, so he naturally creates that fifth midfielder area there. And on the opposite side, that means that the other side stays back to form that three, which means that if you put a player there, you would want another midfielder. But if he pushes, you leave a bit of a scenario there, a little bit of a gap, say you will. And it's interesting. And I think that's exactly why Pirlo has been mixing it from the side to side. So you could put your one midfielder player that you want to use as your link on the side that you know isn't going to be your back three. And that's what he's been doing. And that's the reason I do not see Chiesa being able to play on the right while Cuadrado is also there. I think it's you do it, but it creates one wing of being a little bit off. But if Chiesa can play as he did versus Samp on the left, we don't have an issue. And he can be just as useful there. I think it's more about the balance in our play overall. And what we saw against Samp is the midfield was really dictating. They were spreading it out, and we weren't so predictable and always going down one wing. We mixed it up very well. And then when you factor in the balls over the top coming from Bonucci, if he's out on that side, it actually opens up another element to our game, another style of ways we can attack you. So I see that more being as important. But yeah, there have been a lot of matches where Chiesa was left out to dry on the left side. But if he can do what he did against Samp and play that way, and we can kind of keep it balanced in terms of attack, we shouldn't have an issue. But keeping him on the right with Cuadrado, I think it poses an issue on the opposite side. Your thoughts, Omer?
I think it kind of depends on who plays on the left side of the midfield and if Sandro plays on the left. because if Sandro plays, or Danilo for that matter, then it's fine. You have the defensive coverage, and Chiesa runs a lot. He gets back to the defense more than Dybala or Kulusevski when they play that role. But I think it's beyond that. Even it just has that grinta that we like seeing, and you just need one match to look at a player play and see that he has it. Like you can see McKennie had it instantly, just from the first match against Sampdoria, and you can see that Chiesa has it. You can see that Rabiot doesn't have it, and Rambo doesn't have it. It's just something that's natural to a player, and Chiesa definitely has it. So whether he plays on the right or on the left, I think it's better on the right, but that's because he hasn't played on the left side that much, and it will come with time. He's still young, and he needs to learn how to operate there and how to use the supporting players that's behind him and in front of him. So the more he plays there, the more he'll feel comfortable there. And we shouldn't try it on big games like against Merda. I think he should play on the right. But whenever the chance presents itself, like a Sampdoria, Crotone, Benevento, then he should definitely play and put the minutes in on the left side. And I think it will have, it wouldn't be different with time. Like on the right, on the left, it doesn't really matter. He'll just learn to play both roles. He just played on the right most of his career, so of course it's natural to him.
Yes. Now the other thing is too, the reason I see it as a one or the other between Chiesa and Cuadrado is also because that midfielder that you put ahead of Cuadrado has to cover defensively for Cuadrado as well. Because if you form in the back three, that's going to be the wing back you use. He needs the coverage. So again, if you put Chiesa while Cuadrado is out there on that same side, you lose that. You lose that coverage that comes from the way we played it against Sampdoria, which is McKennie ends up being in that spot, and he could be the link up, and he also fills in and covers when need be. As Bentancur would slide in behind Quad, McKennie's just a straight shot back to offer the support. So, yeah, you can go back and forth on this one quite a bit. I think Cuadrado set himself up as a lock for Pirlo, personally.
Yeah, and I think it depends on Danilo, where Danilo plays. If Danilo plays on the right, then Cuadrado lets himself go upfield more than when Demiral or Bonucci or even De Ligt plays there, because Danilo knows how to use himself as a good RB.
Yeah, there's options there, which is the nice thing. Pirlo's got options, but yeah, I mean Danilo, depending on where he plays, but Danilo, you'd have Bonucci. I don't know if I'd slot him over on the left side, to be honest. Left side,
definitely not.
You couldn't do it, so he's got to be out on that right side, and it makes sense too because he's on his strong side, and that's where you get those balls there, and it gives them the time, and it gives them a better angle to make those passes if we are going to start to try and do that a little bit more, which we saw quite a bit of against them. So there's multiple ways you can do it, but the nice thing is the huge positive from Chiesa, making a lot of people eat their words on him. It's very much welcomed because it's like a position. It's like a player that we've tried with a couple guys that have failed miserably, and now Chiesa's coming in and hitting the ground running. So hopefully he can just continue and build off that. We've got a big topic we'll talk about that's just going crazy right now in everybody's thoughts. But Andra coming in with our goal kick and play out of defend, looking good. Two center mids offering options, covering each other, and McKennie occupy the space in the center of the field. Absolutely. Francisco coming in with against Merda, you play the same lineup. You can't expose that Inter's right flank. But Marco coming in, obviously no Lukaku or Hakimi on Tuesday there. But we got chewed up by that side, and definitely don't think that's going to happen again. Pirlo will definitely have an answer there, and it's probably going to be that big change in the midfield. I expect the midfield to probably be the exact same. But yeah, let's talk about because we are going to get to that Coppa Italia. I guess we can do it now. Okay, the lineup versus Merda. What do you do if you're Pirlo in terms of the lineup? What we saw against Sampdoria, do you keep it relatively the same? Do you have a couple changes? Like, how do you line us up for that one, Omer?
I think Artur is a lock. I think De Ligt must play, no questions asked. And if it's possible, then instead of Bonucci, but I believe Chiellini will sit this one out. I think Sandro must play. Even when there's no Hakimi in there, Sandro gives you that defensive stability, and Inter kind of sat back and just waited for their opportunities to attack us. So Sandro must play. Bentancur is on a fifth yellow, so he doesn't play the next league match against Napoli. So he'll probably play, and Rabiot will play in the match against Napoli. And McKennie should always play when fit, when available. Should always play. I believe Pirlo will play with Kulusevski, but I still think it should be Chiesa on the right, and I believe Morata and Ronaldo are locked as the front two. That's the way I see the lineup. Cuadrado on the right, Danilo also must play, and I don't mind Buffon and go actually.
Yeah, I'm fine with either of the keepers. To be honest, there's no issue there for me. And yeah, at the back, honestly, if Bonucci plays, I'm not terribly upset. I expect a lick to go out there, but I would personally go. It's tough because it's such a short turnaround from the Sampdoria match. But if you played Chiellini again, which I probably would, honestly, I'd probably go Chiellini, Danilo, and De Ligt against Merda. And I'd probably slap Sandro as one wing back. You can have that leaves your right side. What do? This is the circumstance, right? Because if you got those four at your back, are you playing Cuadrado up ahead? Because it presents a bit of a weird setup there with this back line when you do that, right? But I would like to see them as that back three. And Chiesa is a no-brainer. I think he's got to play. In the midfield, you keep things the same. That three-man with Bentancur, Artur, McKennie up top, without question. Morata, CR. So you have some question marks really only at a couple spots, but it's going to be preference. I think it would be okay either way, but man, for me, Danilo, De Ligt, and Chiellini, for sure. But it's going to be a big one. What do you think when people say it doesn't matter? Because there was a lot of fans that were saying, play anybody, it doesn't matter. We don't care. What do you think?
I can relate to that feeling that it doesn't matter, and especially when we play against Merda. Like every match matters to me. Even the preseason friendlies, I watch them and I analyze them, and I can't just watch a game and say, it doesn't matter. Even if we'd won the Scudetto by March and all the games after that are just nothing, I want Juve to win. I can't relate to the feeling that it doesn't matter and it's okay to lose it. If we want to be a big team, then we have to run at all three fronts, in the Champions League, in the League, and in the Coppa Italia. And it's fine if we're eliminated, okay? But I won't accept an elimination because of just disrespecting that tournament and just saying, it doesn't matter. Because Inter doesn't play. I will be fine with finishing second or third place, but running all the way on all fronts. But we can't afford it. We can't afford it. Like Inter has, in my opinion, the best roster in Serie A, and they're not in Champions League. because I don't know, don't know if it's Conte or just their attitude towards that specific tournament, and they're focusing on the league. We've proved in the past that we can and should focus on all three fronts, and that's what I believe.
Yeah.
There's no way it doesn't matter. I can't relate to
Yeah.
that.
I can't relate to either, and I've been saying kind of the same thing, and it especially changed when it became Merda, and we think back to that first matchup in which we got everything wrong. But there has been a big change since that match to this one. Not only guys that are available and fit, but what Pirlo has figured out in the middle of the park. But yeah, for me, it does matter, and it's that measuring stick. It's that measuring stick for this team now that will tell us whether that first time we lined up against them was just a blackout, and have we now moved in the right direction, and this is the setup we need to go with. There's a lot here for us, and the actual lift for the next series of matches in the schedule that will be tough with going Roma and Napoli back-to-back in Serie A. This is a big mental one for this club. So it'll be a big one. And then, in terms of Merda and their roster or whatnot, it's a solid roster. It'd be more impressive if they had paid for it, because apparently they're not right now. So, but that's another story, and that's kind of a funny thing, And if anybody has any banter going on with any Merda fans, and I like to throw it at my cousin in Italy there, and I let him know all the time. I say, you guys literally had to run yourselves bankrupt now to compete with us. I was like, so just think about that for a second. But it'll be interesting. And Francisco coming in with some thoughts there, saying if you play Sandro, Inter right is exposed. Play Chiesa with a defender on his back and Quadrado on the right, which is Inter's weak wing. Yeah. Again, lots of options and whatnot, and things you can change up here. Francisco saying next game Lukaku and Hakimi, but I'm talking if everyone is in the 11. Yeah, absolutely.
I have two questions for that.
It's just anytime you play those guys, you just can't say it doesn't matter. But especially what went down before, this is big. This is big for this club. So we'll see what ends up happening. Let's get back to player performances, so to speak, and a guy where all the discussion has been about. And while he's notably been off for, I'd say, somewhere around 5-6 matches. In this one yesterday, he struggled again. However, he was involved in both goals. Second one being a great ball. Even the first through ball to get Morata in behind the defense was great. But CR7, is it time to worry? Or no, too premature? No issues. How do you feel so far as of late with CR7, and what are your thoughts in terms of some fans that are getting a little antsy about his play?
I think that the over exaggerated admiration that people have for him, and the casual talk about it all the time on Twitter, just makes people a bit more sensitive about it. And whenever he does something wrong, then everyone pops out and saying it, and whenever he does something right, then all of his fans come out and say it, and it's a bit of a weird banter between fans. It shouldn't happen, but I'm not worried. Every year he has a bit of a let off where he's takes his foot off the gas and scores less. Last year it was in December, and then we came in January and he scored in 11 matches straight. And it happened also at Real Madrid. Every year he had a month where he wasn't that good. He wasn't at full fitness. Maybe it's that time of the year, the most, let's call it, loaded time of matches. And I think he'll bounce back maybe against Porto, maybe earlier, but this month will be different. But he did score. He did give us the win last night. sort of gave us the win last night. He was involved in both goals, and he did give us the win against Napoli in the Supercoppa. Like, he shows up when it matters, usually.
Yeah, it's so hard to bet against this guy, and gun to my head, time to worry or not. I'm gonna say no. I think, obviously, as we get to that knockout round with Porto and whatnot, if he still, seems a little bit off or struggling, and it's the attitude. It's like the change in attitude that kind of has me most, not necessarily the play. Because even if we think about this 5 or 6 matches where it's been noticeably off for his standards, the attitude is what's kind of bothering me the most. But in one of those matches, he actually became a very valuable decoy and allowed space to operate for the other players. And Chiesa went off in that match against Milan there. In a couple of the other ones, he really struggled all around. And then you have a match like, you touched on Supercoppa. He scores that one, even though overall was probably off. And then last night, he's in on both goals. Right. So take the good with the bad. He has also struggled for time frames since he's joined Juve. There's always been like this little set series of matches where he just kind of drops off, but he's picked it up every single time. So I'm not really terribly concerned. If we even think back last season under Sarri, he had a section where he struggled. Sarri followed it up with subbing him off a couple times in quick succession. And then that kind of created a crazy little effect for Sarri there or whatnot. And Ronaldo actually left the stadium and all that anyways. But CR7, is it time to worry? Not yet. Not yet. You simply cannot bet against this guy. You just can't do it. If something's maybe off physically, that would maybe explain it. But in terms of playing and how he's actually operating, I think during this time, I think it's time to maybe keep things a little bit more simple in terms of how he plays and whatnot. Like, we see him out on the flank a lot. I know that's how he likes to get in on the build-up and stuff like that, but we don't need him in the build-up, especially if our midfield dictates the way we did against Sampdoria. And even if you want to go a match prior or whatnot, if the midfield is actually doing the job that they've been doing, he should be trusting the teammates and staying in positions where he's a threat to the opponents. Like we think back to this match against Sampdoria in the 38th minute there, where he's hanging out and finds the space at the top of the area, dead center. Stay in that area, and we found him. We found him with the ball. Chiesa did well, drew some defenders into him, finds Ronaldo, and he tees it up. And if that's not who knows what happens, right? He just, I don't want to see him wasting energy in areas we don't really need him if everything else is working, right? And that's the one thing I could say is, even while he's slumping, if you're in a bit of a slump, and to him a slump is not nearly as bad as, say, like a Bernardeschi slump, okay? But we'll just call it a slump for that matter. But if you're going through this time and you're clearly frustrated, as everybody can see, put yourself in the danger areas and trust your teammates and go from there. But getting involved in all this buildup and stuff, I know that's his game and how he likes to just free roam and whatnot. But man, if the midfield's doing their job, trust them, get in the danger spot and start banging the goals in and get that attitude back up. But what do you think?
I will tell you this. Bet against him. Bet against him. He feeds off of it. He likes people betting against him. He likes all the criticism. That's what drives him. And there's no one that's more angry or frustrated with those easy chances that he misses than himself.
Yeah.
He knows that he isn't angry about the players that play with him. He's angry about because of himself, because he knew he should have scored that, and that's what drives him forward. That's what makes him a great player, because a lot of players like succumb to the bad reviews and what is said in the media and by fans and the booing in the stadium, which obviously doesn't happen right now. But he needs that. He needs that. So bet against him.
Yeah.
Bet against him. I will tell everyone he's not in a good shape, and he'll prove me wrong, like he proved me wrong in the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, it feels like the past few seasons everybody gets to that point, and again, it's because this discussion has come up and it says, well, father time's catching up, and then all of a sudden, bang, he's on fire again, and he starts potting in the goals. But in terms of tactics and playing and whatnot, I see him in areas where he doesn't need to occupy sometimes, and it's great when you're on. When things are working and it's gelling, okay, cool, you can do that. But right now, if you're in this mode, get yourself in the money spots where you do your damage and just start finding those goals and start getting back in there. Because yeah, you talked about it. He feeds off fans that boo him live and whatnot and all this, but that's gone. It's all gone, right? It's different, right? He doesn't have that to feed off. The criticisms and whatnot and the questions of age, whatnot. He can feed off that in the media or whatnot, but attitude needs to pick up from him. He's a guy that we're going to count on, right? The positive about all this, here's the positive, is that the team is playing great football. The team is playing solid football. When, because like you and I agree, don't bet against him. When he starts firing and we put the rest of this puzzle together and we can play as solid as we have recently, we're a scary, scary team, in my opinion. A dangerous team, and we have just kind of sorted things out with the midfield, and we're starting to look solid, and the back line's healthy now, and things are starting to move positively, but we haven't yet had Ronaldo firing like Ronaldo can while this has turned around in the other areas. So I'm very, very excited if we can put it all together. I think we could do a lot of damage.
Me too, and I believe Dybala has a role to play in that either, because when Dybala plays, then Dybala is the one who drops back, and Ronaldo is the one who stays forward. But with Morata, who is a true 9 and stays forward and look for that runs behind the defense, then Ronaldo is sort of, maybe feels like he's obligated to come a bit lower and help the team build up. And when Dybala plays, then Dybala does that. So I don't know. We'll see how that works out when Dybala comes back, and I bet they'll play together a lot this season. Everyone needs a rest now and then. But Morata sort of affects that, I believe. That's why I don't want a new number 9 in the transfer window. Kulusevski even. Kulusevski, when he played next to Ronaldo in the attack and not on the right, he dropped back. He gave those one-touch passes, and Ronaldo was staying forward most of the time. But maybe he needs to adjust to the new system, and he sort of remembers Juve from last season, where you always had to come back and try and help, because we couldn't get the ball into the area. And I saw that stat last night. Pirlo, compared to Sarri last season, the number of touches inside the opponent's area has almost multiplied itself by 2 from last season. With Sarri, we had a really tough time getting into the area, and it happens a lot easier now.
Oh yeah, we were going through matches hitting 67th minute without like attempts, And this is another thing too, and Bentancur talked about, and I've liked what I've seen recently, is that guys are starting to get the confidence in having attempts. From outside the area. You're starting to see our midfielders want to shoot the ball in positions and whatnot. And it's good. Bentancur talking about in his interview, after each training session, we hang back and everybody shoots on goal. And he even spoke to it. He's like, the confidence in my shot isn't where it needs to be, but it will get there and whatnot. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, man, what the hell were we doing before this time? And all the fans could see it. And we were like, man, these guys get these lanes where you could see a shooting lane and they don't even want to take it. So for me, like, props to Pirlo. But it's sad that it took this long for anybody to like figure this out or be like, why are these midfielders not shooting in training? Like, you have to have shooting sessions. Like, it's wild to me, right?
Like look at the amount of goals Pogba had.
What's that?
Look at the amount of goals Pogba had just from shooting outside the area.
Yeah.
And he was the last one who did it. Marquisio used to do it. Vidal used to do it. Pirlo even used to do it. And after that,
and that's the thing. It's just like, how can you have a midfielder actually say in an interview he's not confident in his shot? My God, use the training sessions for what they are. Like, you should have anybody that's going to be in and around the area with attempts should be comfortable shooting the ball. So it was just like a shocking moment. Like, you're just like, wow, one of our midfielders says he's not confident. We all knew it. You could all see it when you're watching the games, and they get these, like, especially last season, you get the ball in these prime areas and they don't even think about shooting. They're just looking to dish it off to the guys that will up top, right? Yeah.
You know who has it? Danilo. Danilo has it. Danilo, every time he gets inside the area, he usually shoots. He has that confidence. If his shooting is not that great, but he has that confidence.
Yeah, maybe it's a little overconfidence, but no.
Yes.
I'm fine with it. If he wants to take a rip, I mean, look at the goal he scored a couple of weeks back. Fantastic. So we have to have the guys all confident and really ready to contribute, basically. But you started talking about the Mercado a little bit, and obviously today's kind of the final day, right? It ends, and we've got the news, and of course, Marco bringing it up, was this discussed already? Khedira is signing for Hertha Berlin. Okay, so he's pop the bottles there. It's finally done. I guess he's flying over there. He's going to do medicals and stuff, but it looks like he's going to move. There were some rumors circulating that he and Bernardeschi could be joining Roma. Obviously, Roma was the director was meeting with Allegri at a hotel a couple of days ago, and we know that things with Fonseca, how that was going on, and Dzeko apparently he's got issues. I had a big tiff with him. We were talking about bringing in Dzeko and trying to make things work. But my question is, as the team says, Paratici says this team is complete, and Pirlo says, yeah, if there were opportunities, we would take and whatnot. My question to you is, do you feel the team is complete? Was there a move you would have liked them to see get done? How do you feel if we close things off as is?
Out of the transfer rumors that we've had in January, there wasn't any deal that I thought like this would improve the team. I don't think we need a new number 9, because he's going to be someone who sits on the bench and probably leaves at the end of the year, and he's not going to replace Morata. And I do believe Kulusevski and Dybala would play that role, and they'll be good at it. I really believe that. And we have other areas that really need a backup. Both flanks, both Sandro and Cuadrado, is a much more urgent area in the field that we need to strengthen. And Sandro mostly.
Yeah, I think I saw quite a few just saying like Sandro's the slowest player I've ever seen and stuff like that, and it's he always looks absolutely gassed. It doesn't matter if he's had a break or whatever. He looks drained, and that could have just maybe we just fried him from a couple of years of using him like nonstop. But what would you have done on the flanks? Were there any opportunities? Should we have recalled Pellegrini on one side? Would you have been okay with that? Like, what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with that, but not as a long-term, like a substitute. Okay, I'll take him as a substitute, but Sandro is so fragile. In the last year, I don't know how long he's been injured, and once he came back, then he had COVID, and he did look slow and did look a bit sluggish. But I like the adding of Rabota. I think he should get some minutes here and there, but when it matters, if we don't have Sandro, then we're fucked. We've seen that against Inter. Prabota is not still at that level of those big games where you can have so opportunities in the market. I don't know. Maybe I'd take my first pick would be Grimaldo from Benfica, with a fantastic left back, but I don't know if he's an option even. But I'm not a scout. I don't work around the clock looking for left backs around the world. So
Yeah.
that job is for Paradici.
This is the thing too. Yeah, I mean it's tough, but I mean we've done decent without Sandro, but that match where we needed for a bolt in there, the other option was Bernardeschi. So you had Bernardeschi or Frabotta. Take your pick. Honestly, like you're going with one with lacking experience or whatnot, Frabotta. Well, I think what he's done this season is still positive on the whole trajectory, right? And the whole outlook is positive. But man, if you're going to bank on Frabotta there in big matches, that shows you've got some gaps there. Would Sandro have done better? I think so defensively. Would he offer enough up top? I always question that. The balance to his game has been lost for a while, but I was hoping in this new hybrid system of Pirlo, it takes us back to the days when Sandro hit the ground running with us, playing as that style, as that true left wing back. So we will see. But he does have to pick things up. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt because he just came back. But I'm always left wanting more with Sandro, really, ever since that one stellar season. So it's just it's an odd one with him and whatnot. But in terms of this team being complete, the playmaker role, McKennie is starting to find a home. Has he surpassed Ramsey in terms of that role? Ramsey was used as the second striker yesterday for when he came on. Pirlo started talking about playing him there. Does that give signs that, and even just with McKennie getting the nods there, we know how highly Pirlo speaks about Ramsey and what he thinks about Ramsey and whatnot. But McKennie kind of taken that spot from him? Has he kind of like become the 1A at that link-up role out of the midfield? I think so, to be honest. Ramsey's great on his day, but the problem is when is his day? You're always left wondering, like, is today going to be the day? Is today going to be the day? Which Ramsey are we going to get? He does a lot of stuff off the ball. That's great. But he also limits you in defensive coverage that you don't get with McKennie. And he also, his execution hasn't been the greatest in the most crucial moments. So it's a tough one. You've got Ramsey that on his day, whenever that may be, could be world class. But then you have McKennie, who's overall solid and gives you a lot, right? It's really tough. Is the team complete? I was thinking a playmaker. I was honestly going back in my mind. The only reason I know what you mentioned earlier, and it's true, and I agree, a fourth striker would end up sitting quite a bit. It raised a lot of question marks. What happens when Dybala gets back? Now Kulusevski, he really hasn't looked anywhere near as comfortable in any other position than he does as the second striker too. So now all of a sudden you got a couple extra guys and Morata. CR7's not going anywhere. Why are we, you're going to make this move? So to me, the only one that made sense was a young guy that you could then later flip for a positive gain in the financials if you were going to make that move. A playmaker, you could always argue we need one more playmaker out of the middle, unless you plan on using Dybala there, which a lot of fans say use Dybala, but you can't because I don't think he gives you the defensive work that Pirlo's system will require out of that link player. Everybody that wants to talk about Morata, Dybala, and Ronaldo, I don't personally see it working in this setup of Pirlo's. What do you think about that?
I agree. I actually agree. Both Dybala and Ramsey doesn't offer much in coverage and getting back on the defense. And McKennie does. McKennie nailed that spot because of the amount of running he does and because he tracks back and wins the ball. And so if you are going to bring in another attacking midfielder, another creative midfielder up front, then it should have something to do with defensive work too. Because you can't defend with just two midfielders. We saw that. We saw that it doesn't work. And our formation is, like you said, hybrid. And McKennie also, when they show the lineup before the match, it's like he plays on the left or on the right, but it doesn't really, and it changes when you attack and when you defend. And if you put a player there that doesn't defend, then you fuck the whole thing up. The system just doesn't work, and we've seen it all the time. Every time another Bentancur or McKennie played in that spot, we usually had a bad game. And you need a player that can run. Ramsey can't run back and forth for 90 minutes. Dybala can't run back and forth for 90 minutes. And maybe Kulusevski can, but then you lose his contribution up front. And teams used to, close their lines against us and play really tight and really close to each other. And we need that man on the flank more than we need the man on the middle. Because in the end, when teams attack against us, they use the flanks all the time, and every cross inside the area feels dangerous. When we cross, it rarely feels dangerous, but when McKennie plays, he gets into the area, he gets to those balls.
Yeah.
And that's what you need from your midfielder. So
Yeah.
Ramsey doesn't do it. Ramsey is used more in the build-up play than getting in the area and creating chances. And he's important, but like you said, he's not consistent, and you can't tell when his next injury will be, and he'll be off for a month. So you can't bank on him to always play and get that motivation going and get that chemistry with the rest of the team. McKennie already has it. I feel like he already has it. And Bentancur and Arthur are starting to gel together. And Chiesa is a lock, so bringing in someone to be a makeshift midfielder just feels like, overplaying your hand. And take into consideration the COVID case, and I don't think any one of us knows how bad really is the financial state of Juventus and what we can and can't afford. So just saying, I like those comments. What are my favorite comments on Twitter? Sell Rugani, sell De Chilio, Costa, bring De Bruyne, bring Aguero. I don't know. People are delusional sometimes about the match.
Yeah, I mean, Juve's, in my opinion, and I've been saying this for a while now, as all these links come out with these young guys, that's really, really smart positioning by them, in my opinion, because when things turn around, even now, currently, they just pulled 25 million plus Valenza on 3 youngsters, like Portanova going out, Petrelli, and then Tongue there. So pulling that was huge. That was sweet. And they got their man, the guy that they wanted, which was Rovella. Whether he's going to be in the fold in the future or not, it was good business. And we knew where they kind of stood before kind of COVID and whatnot, and that there was a negative and they'd have to kind of chip away at that and get back. That was good. That was a big piece of business for them to show 25 in capital gains there. Now, all of a sudden, it continues on offloading Khedira. Huge. There was trying to get a deal done for Rugani. Because Rugani, De Chilio, and Douglas Costa, they have to move. They're going to have a tough time, I think, with Costa. But we'll see. That one's going to hurt, honestly, the Douglas Costa one. Rugani, De Chilio won't hurt as bad. Rugani, you could probably still move. De Chilio is, De Chilio. But even Mandragora, trying to make a deal for Mandragora with Torino. It seems that Juve is hot on Wilfried Singo there. Their defender in Torino, and trying to make a deal where they can offload somebody and also pick him up. And there's another young prospect that could be worth some gains in the book. So they're going through this cycle. Juve's trying to position themselves where they can start getting these finances corrected, and there will be a move if things change. Because if we hit the summer mercado and things are the same as they were last summer, nobody's going to be buying because the revenues are still hurt. And you hear this right across the footballing world. Everybody's in the same boat. And then you got teams that, like Merda, they're not even paying wages currently. Like Barcelona's in dire needs. Messi's numbers coming out on his contract in that paper, and it's insanity. And then you wonder why this team is in that state right now, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. So Real Madrid went through a summer mercado last one, the first one ever. They did not purchase a single player. These things are all everybody's in the same boat, but all in all, Juve is able to position themselves quite well. While everybody talks about the money, oh yeah, well, Juve's got this company back, they can spend. Yeah, you can spend. You can spend whatever you want. Yeah, they have enough money to buy a room, but it has to, obviously you have to comply, and you can only spend as much as you make. And nobody knows what's going to happen with the fair play and all this due to COVID. And I think it's just going to be kind of left because this is unprecedented time. So I don't think they're going to really have anything to base off. So they can't. So it's probably just going to be a pass for the time being. And we know that some clubs have received a pass anyways, as it was. So it is what it is. But it'll be interesting to see. Is the team complete? I think we're pretty damn close, but it wouldn't have been bad to bolster one spot, maybe two. You made an argument about the flanks, and then I still say, whether it's that one more midfielder or whatnot, we'll see. But again, we would have had to move guys. Colin coming in with, does Khedira leaving free up a spot for someone else to come in this mercado? We had a spot, even with Khedira not going, and with Khedira going, it would definitely free up a spot should someone want to come in. The other thing is we just move players in the roster amongst U23s, because we do have Fajoli up or whatnot as well, who's also apparently going to be staying with the first team and whatnot, which is interesting. I also saw some shouts asking, do you play Fajoli against Merda on Tuesday? I think that was Marco that came up with that one. No, that's a no from me. I actually said with Fajoli after that one match, while I was agreeing he had a great game, he's very, very promising player. I want to see him play in a match, maybe if we have a good, comfortable lead, get in there. And I want to see him when he doesn't have as much space and time that he did against Spal. I want to see him in tight quarters and how he can operate and maneuver, right? That's my one thing with Fajoli, but very, very promising. But to play him against Merda, I think we can both agree, Omar, that's a negative on that one.
Not from the off. If we have like a comfortable lead, like a 2-0 at the 70 minute, then he can come on and play, and depends on the match, but definitely not starting. Definitely not starting the game.
And I don't know if even a 2 goal is comfortable enough for me to put him in there. And just because we know their midfield and how they flood it, and that it's going to be, it's good guys. It's a good midfield, and I don't know if I throw him into that scenario right there. I don't know if I have that amount of confidence just yet, especially after one match against Spal in the Copa. But extra time as we're looking to wrap up here. Just want to have some fun. We talked about it earlier, all-time 11s and whatnot, and I had a picture that I got done from a friend of mine that actually does all-time 11, the guys at alltime11.com. So I did one up for the team since I've been watching Juventus, okay? And basically we have Buffon, Chiellini, Ferrara, Zambrotta, Thuram, Davids, Nedved, Zidane, Baggio, Del Piero, and Trezeguet. These are really cool showpieces. He did a really, really great job, those guys. So if you guys tuning in, check them out, alltime11.com. Really fun. I'm going to do another Juventus one of all time. Guys, even before my time that I didn't see, but this one was just players I've watched. I'm going to do one for the Azzurri as well. I'm having a tough time picking that one. But, Omar, my question to you is, your all-time 11, lay it out for me from players you've watched.
Well, the goalkeeper, there's no questions about it. Buffon, hands down. No one even comes close. Definitely Chiellini. I think, having a tough time between Montero and Barzali.
Yeah.
I think Barzali. Barzali edges it out for me. Thuram on the right, Zambrotta on the left, definitely. Midfield is a problem. Zidane was one of the players that made me fall in love with Juve, so he's definitely in the midfield. Davids also. Nedved, of course, Nedved. I really, really liked Camoranesi back in his time, but I don't know if he's in the, an all-time Juve player, but I really liked him.
That one hurt my heart for me that I had to leave Camoranesi out. Because you saw my midfield, I had David, Zidane, and Nedved, and I just couldn't get him in the team. And if we had a substitute list on this one, I'd probably put him there just because of my heart, because I always loved Camoranesi.
Yeah,
he did for us. Also, one of the guys that stayed behind.
Yeah, Marquisio, because he would have played for you no matter where we've been. Even if we've been in Serie C, he would have still played for Juve, and that can say that about a lot of players in any team. And Del Piero, hands down. And striker is a tough one. Trezeguet, maybe? I don't know if Trezeguet, although Tevez wasn't there for a long time, I loved him so much. He embodied everything that is Juve, and he had a great time, and we enjoyed him a lot. I still love Dybala, despite of everything that's going on. I love the man.
Tevez was a tough one for me too. But Trez, I just the Del Piero Trezeguet combination for me, that was me growing up, man.
Yeah, I agree. Trezeguet. I go with Trezeguet. I don't know. I can't pick anyone else.
That's great.
I don't know if we had anyone like him since he left.
Yeah.
Like someone who sits up front, doesn't do anything, and then scores 2 goals in 15 minutes.
Just a killer. He's just a killer. He was always that was his thing, and he did it very, very well. Very, very well. Real quick, just extra time, having fun. If where you thought Juve would be, like where we are currently, I've been talking to Juventini as of late with Pirlo, and I remember the discussions we had when he first joined and where we are now. Is it going how you thought it was going to go? Is it worse? Is it better? What did you expect once Pirlo was named, and how do you feel about where we are now?
Look, if we take everything into consideration with that weird COVID season, and factor in no preseason, playing a match every 3 days, no real time to train together as a group, a lot of injured players, maybe due to COVID or to just injuries from overloading them with games. So I believe it's going pretty much as I expected. Like if we were at first place right now, I would be shocked that Pirlo managed to pull that off. And it might have been even surprising, considering that I don't think Juve has gotten worse. I think just the rest of the league has gotten better. And teams like Verona, you can't expect anything against them. They can win against you. And Napoli and Roma and Inter and Milan and Lazio and Atalanta and so many teams are tough matches that you can't expect anything. And some of them have been running together for a few years now with the same coach, with the same lineup, and then you bring in a new coach who didn't have time at all to test his team and try them out and have a regular, like period of training sessions going on. So it's actually even going better than what I expected. But I want to keep Pirlo. I don't like that coaching carousel. I think 3 coaches in 3 years is more than enough. And I want that football mind inside of the Juve dressing room. He's a phenomenal player. And, like you and I and every Juventini on Twitter, we see it and criticize and analyze Juve from top to bottom. And, what do we know compared to Pirlo about football, about how to organize a team? So if we have the slightest idea of what we're talking about, then be sure that Pirlo knows even more.
Yeah.
Knows probably much more than us. The coaches he trained under, like Lippi and Conte and everyone he played under. Ancelotti is a phenomenal coach. I'm sure Pirlo learned a lot from him. And it takes time. It just takes time, like after the Milan game, everyone was hyping Juve up. And after the Merda game, like a week later, we were the worst team in the league and our season was gone. Same for Fonseca at Roma. 3 weeks back, it was great. Now he's, up for resignation. So take it all with a pinch of salt and be patient. It happens. You are on trajectory up and you need to wait.
Yeah, it's pretty fickle like that. That's just the world of football, What have you done for me lately? And Paulo Dybala is a prime example. Prime example of that. He's having a very, very unfortunate season. I do want to ask you a question about Dybala. Real quick, any updates on Fagioli, Raffia, Wesley? So Fagioli is with the first team. Pirlo has made it known. Apparently, the rumors came out about Fagioli possibly being included in a deal for Scamacca, and then obviously his agent debunked that and said it was never a case. Pirlo is going to have him on the team. Obviously, he ends up taking Portanova's place. And Raffia got a knock in the one match he joined us, but I think he has since then healed. Wesley was a part of that match as well. They are back with the U23s on that squad. So that's a quick update answering that question. And in terms of Dybala, obviously, I know how you feel about him. You feel the same way I do about him. But this scenario, you and I haven't really discussed since it's come up. And he's had an awful bout of misfortune this particular season in terms of COVID, injuries, bladder infection, gastrointestinal issues. Like, oh my God, what more could possibly happen, right? Comes back, starts to play, in my opinion, way better than what it was at the start. Started to look a little bit more like himself. Gets a knock, gets injured. And fans are just like, it's done. Get rid of him. Make your money off him and then make the move. I say there's just too many. I'm not fighting the performances. I think there's also those contributing factors, but I'm not fighting the performances when I say we should pump the brakes on selling the kid. It's everything. It's factoring in the finances of the club. It's factoring in Ronaldo's age. Is he going to stay around? He's got one more year left on contract to 2022. Do we extend Ronaldo? Do we make a move? Do we try to get something out of it towards the end? So is it the right time to sell Dybala? Then you factor in the COVID scenario like you and I discussed earlier, not getting top dollar for Dybala. Is that a smart move? It's a tough one. I just want to get your thoughts on the situation and how you feel in terms of making a move for him or standing behind him. Obviously, the big news with Dybala as of late is that the image rights have been settled. So if they were going to make a move, that would no longer be something that makes it more difficult for a team that wanted to pick him up on an acquisition. And it also makes things easier for Juve to do an extension for him because they know that that wouldn't be stopping them from moving him along should they choose, right? So what are your thoughts on the whole scenario there?
I think I truly believe that it's a question that can be answered right now. It really depends on how the season keeps going and how injury prone will he be. And I don't know, Dybala is the most correct sentence about the transfer market that can be said is it's better to sell a year too early than a year too late. And if Dybala has another bad season next season, so we lose him for like, I don't know, 30 million max. And because he's not that young and he's not a prospect anymore, and the whole contract situation is so weird. Like, okay, so he had that thing with De Ligt earning top dollar, but De Ligt play regularly, and De Ligt isn't injured most of the time, and De Ligt justifies right now the salary he gets. And Dybala, although he's demanding more, he doesn't justify it on the field, for me, at least this season. And it might change. It might change in a month or two, and he would justify it, and it would be crucial in big games. So if he keeps going on like that, I think it will be time to sell. We need to know when to say goodbye. And thank you for your time, and thank you for all the memories. But I don't know. It's tough to say goodbye. I can't see Dybala not in a Juve shirt.
It is tough. It's tough to think about. I think one of the other things too that we may not get the answer to, which hopefully we do, hopefully comes back and we get enough time, enough opportunities to figure it out. But will he fit Pirlo's system? Does he simply fit? Is it good enough for the system? And if it isn't, is somebody else going to be better for it? And if it is, it's always going to be team above individual, right? And that's another question too. You know, it's like, okay, it's a new system. He hasn't integrated well into it. Is it time to move here? You know, it's a tough one. It's going to suck based on how we feel personally about Dybala and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's all about the team, right? And constantly improving, progressing, and growing. But it's a tough one, and I think you're right. The answer isn't there just yet. I'm afraid the answer may not come even by the end of the season, and it might just be something we just gotta trust, Juve in what they decide. So.
No, it can change in one single moment. Like if he scores a goal that gives us, I don't know, a Champions League trophy or even the Coppa Italia, then everyone will start thinking differently, and everyone will start saying that he needs to stay and he's important. And we love him. I believe everyone loves him, and no one is immune to criticism, and it's okay to get some criticism. And about the positioning, I don't know. It's up to him. If you don't fit the system, if you don't have a spot in the system that suits you, then train harder, train for a new spot, because you can't ask for $15 million or 15 million, I don't know, euros, and come with other demands. Like I'll play only if I play in this and that position. And isn't only a problem with Pirlo. It was a problem with Allegri also, and for portions of last season with Sarri, until he found his system where Dybala fits. So if you want to play for a top team, especially at Juve, then adjust yourself to the situation. And it's just something in his mentality. Like remember when Lichtsteiner was taken off the Champions League list, and Dani Alves was put there instead of him, and he didn't say a word. He just kept working harder, and eventually in January he got his spot back. And that's something I expect from a top player. Just don't bitch about your contract and injuries and nothing. Just work harder to make yourself a better player, so that people can't ignore you. The coaches can't ignore you. The manager needs to play because you're a better player than everyone else on the bench. And that's something that's up to him. You can't, sugarcoat everything so Dybala will feel good.
Yeah.
And I love the man.
That's that's ultimately what it comes down to, and it's gonna be up to him. I think he can do it. There's no doubt he can do it. I think all the scenario
100%.
itself, all these issues just kind of mounted up this pressure, all this thing. But at the same time, you got to be able to handle it, especially if you be a big money guy. So I have really, really mixed feelings in this one with Dybala, man. Like I'm just I'm just torn, and I'm fighting both sides. I got the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other, and it's just. Man, I go back and forth on this one a lot, but no, it's great. I also saw,
and I want to say something else about Bonucci.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's be honest. I don't like the man ever since he's moved to Milan. I want him to play good. I want him to be a better player for Juve, and so I'll extend an olive branch, like to give him some credit. Bonucci, although he doesn't say it, like how Ronaldo says that he enjoys the booing, it drives him forward, makes him want to play better. So Bonucci doesn't say it, but I believe he's a lot like that. He needs the crowd at the stadium. He needs the criticism from the fans. He needs the booing because that makes him want to work harder. And up until the COVID, when we lost the crowd last season, he had a good season. It was good. He was good up until that point, and suddenly when it all disappeared, then his performances disappeared as well. So I do believe he, fuels himself from the crowd in the stadium, and the lack of crowd in the stadium does make him play worse. And a lot of players talked about it, that it's hard to stay focused because when, like when you play on the right and all game long, people are screaming in your ear, or either your fans or the opposition fans, it drives you, it keeps you focused.
Yeah.
And when it's not there, then it's easy to lose focus. And we've seen that a lot for Juve, just, taking the foot off the gas in the closing stages because you feel like the game is over and you don't have the fans there to drive you forward. And I believe Bonucci really needs that to play better.
Yeah.
But we should have sold him. He should have stayed at Milan. His move back just still to this day feels off. Feels like it shouldn't have happened.
Benatia was doing so well for us too at the time.
Fantastic.
He was playing fantastic for us. And I really, really heavily criticized that move when we brought him back, and the message it was sending to the locker room and everything with doing that. And it was strange. It was a really, really strange one. Going back, Bonucci obviously seen. It tarnished what could have been an incredible status that he could hold with Juve. Here's a question. Here's a fun little extra time question, and the people join us. You can drop your comments there. Is Bonucci a Juventus legend?
No, sorry.
You don't have to point at me.
No, I just don't. I don't think he's a legend. That move to Milan pretty much finished his career, his professional career at Juve. He had a chance to be a legend. He had a chance to be part of that winning team, and because of one argument with the manager, he chose to do this harsh move and move to one of our rivals. Had a horrible season there, and then came back knocking on our door, and wanting his first team place back. And I'm sorry, just don't deserve it. Sorry, it was a little tough for you and you left. I'm sorry.
Would it have changed if he came back and wasn't given the top spot and had to earn it back?
No, I don't think so. Not for me, at least.
Because some people saw it as that sense of entitlement. Like you said, I mean, he literally came back and was handed this top spot again. It was like, okay, we're just going to do this or whatnot. And you couldn't help but feel like Juve maybe had lost a bit of their spine in that move, it's just like, oh, come on, we should be firm. Like, he made that decision. He went there trying to knock us down, It failed miserably, but that was the intention, and it was terrible, right?
And you know what? I could have handled that move. I could have handled that move to Milan and be okay with him. But that moment where he celebrated against us, the club that gave him everything he was, that made him one of the top defenders in Europe, and a lot lesser players than him didn't have the guts to celebrate against their former clubs. And that minute he celebrated, that ended it all for me.
I was at that match. I tell that story all the time. It was unbelievable to see because he came out at the start of the match and actually walked out there to the crowd reaction, stood there, did a full 360 and took it all in. And he said in his interview after, that was the deciding factor as to why he celebrated the goal with the Milan fans. And I'm like, wow. Well, what did you expect the fans to do? Did you expect us to give you this standing ovation before a match when you chose to leave us for rivals? It's crazy. Colin coming in here with my point I was also going to make is that he is part of the BBBC, and that's kind of something. But as far as his legendary status, you could argue, again, he still was part of many trophies with us and whatnot. He'll have that. But I think in terms of legends, your club status plays a part as well. And he kind of tarnished that club status, by doing that. Marquisio, I want to bring up Marquisio because we were talking about Dybala earlier. And I saw this tweet, and while I love Dybala, and I know you do too, but I'm going to ask you this question. Somebody said Dybala needs to be treated in the same breath as Marquisio. For me, that is a no. It's not even on the same level, to be honest, for me. But I want to get your thoughts. Does he need to be treated in the same respect as Marquisio? For me, it's two completely different levels. While I can respect how much Dybala loves Juve, it's not even close between the two in terms of that status amongst club. What do you think?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a simple no. Marquisio would have played for Juve for free if it meant he still could play and contribute to the team. If you come out and say I will be good once you'll pay me 15 million, then you like the club. It doesn't mean that you don't like the club, but it also shows a bit about your character. Like the same case with Sami Khedira. You can't say you love the club and in the same breath just take your 6 million, not play, not do anything, and then just say, oh, I love the club. No, you love the money, and it's okay. It's okay to say I love the money. It's okay if Dybala says, I want to earn that because I think I deserve it.
Yeah.
But if you wouldn't make the money, then you still need to play.
And that's the funny thing. Obviously, I wake up to the news today that Sammy is going to Hertha Berlin. And yesterday I saw a text or a message there, a tweet, about Sammy should be brought into the squad and used if he's going to be around all season. Absolutely not.
Hard no.
Hard no. I had to laugh, and I was just like, I would rather call up anybody off the U23 squad, let alone Fagioli, this great prospect that we have. I would call anybody on the U23 over and above Khedira and going back there. He chose to not work with the club to take a settlement in order to terminate the contract. You're frozen. You're done. And he was dead to me. We treated better players more club worse than what we did with Sami Khedira. That's kind of a part that bothers me, is we treated better players, more important players to this club that meant more, worse than what Sammy got. And for him to do this and work with the club, it's like, man, you're done to me, man. But to call him, I laughed and I said, there's no way. There's no way this happening. And if it does, I'd be beyond shocked. And then, of course, today, the news, he's finally gone. Sammy, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. See you later.
And he can be a doctor. With the amount of time spent in J Medical, he can be a club doctor. I don't mind him sitting on the bench and like warming up players' legs and helping them recover from injuries. But I had this argument a lot with people that people are saying it's not his fault, it's the management's fault that extended his contract. And fine, fair enough. But don't go out saying you love the club and you want them to win. No, you like the money.
Yes.
You like sitting on the bench and making money. And don't be surprised if we're angry with you for lying about what your preferences are and hurting the club. And that's the thing. It's right. It's the management's fault. No problem there.
Yeah.
So go out and say, I like making money. I think I'm worth $6 million just sitting on the bench, and fuck off. That's what I do.
Exactly. I would have had more respect for him if he just said, you know what, I signed a contract. They signed me to. I'm entitled to this money. I would have had more respect for him saying that.
Definitely.
I love this club. I believe I can fight for a spot here. What? No, you know damn well you can't fight for a spot because Pirlo told you you're not part of the project at the start of the season. Yeah. He literally told you, and that's why I have zero fucks given about Khedira, and he can go. So the people trying to defend him and use the club against him is wrong. Yes, the club shouldn't have done that extension, but he's full of shit, and he was trying to just suck us dry for every last penny. I'm done with him. We treated Mandzukic like shit. You know, you talk about Marquisio playing for free. Del Piero would have played for free to stay. He didn't want to go overseas. He didn't want to move towards the end of his career. He was happy sitting on the bench for us, playing a few minutes here and there. We cut him loose too. If we're supposed to move on from that and not care about it anymore, I definitely don't care about Khedira.
Yes, and look at Matuidi. I have the utmost respect for Matuidi because he did exactly the opposite. He did get his contract extension. He did get his huge salary, but one day he said, I'm not good enough for the club. They don't want me. I don't want to be a burden, so I'll move, even for free, even for a lesser salary. And that is someone who likes the club and wants them to succeed and understands he's not part of the project anymore.
Yeah.
Khedira handed the same cards and dealt them differently. And so don't be surprised if we don't like you, if we want you gone.
Yeah, exactly. Coming in here, guys, the cost of health insurance in Italy will drop when Khedira leaves the country. So enjoy. Yeah, pretty much. That's
Definitely.
top notch there. That is top notch. Well, that's great, man. That's great. This has been a great podcast. Colin actually reaching out in the chat there, looking for your handle on Twitter there, Omer, because he's very much enjoyed you as a guest. You know my thoughts. I always love when we get to discuss Juve. It's a pleasure having you on, as always. I'm glad we had a good victory to discuss and had some great topics, and we were able to celebrate Khedira leaving. So that's great.
Cheers to that.
Last and certainly not least, just for fun in extra time here, if there was one player that you could go out and hand pick to join this team and Pirlo's vision and the setup, who do you choose?
I have two in mind that I'll choose, considering the finances and what is, I won't say Mbappe because it's not realistic. One is Marcus Thuram. I think he's a fantastic player, and I'm sure he worships the club because his father is an idol here and he's in your all-time XI and mine, and I'm pretty sure everyone else. And he knows from a young age what it means to play for Juve. I believe he lived in Torino for a while as a kid, and I'm sure he'll do whatever he can to be good. And the other one, which I think we need more, is Wilfred Ndidi from Leicester. He's one of the top defensive midfielders in the Premier League. He's a fantastic player. He's physical, he's big, he has great technique, and I believe he's like a bit of an upgrade on Bentancur, and that's the one I would take, probably. to
Nice.
break down those counters which we suffer from all the time. We need someone with a physical presence there that can cut them off before it gets to the defenders, and that's what the man does. That's the first name on my shopping list.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I did give shouts out to Ram in the summer amongst all these rumors when I said, man, bring in Taram. Like it'd be fine. Again, not seeing the system or anything and whatnot, but he is a true 9. He's talented. He's young. The price was right. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe in the future. But that was great. Thanks again, Omer. Thanks again, everybody that joined, especially everybody who took part at the live recording. Appreciate all the comments, the questions, everything. I love it. I'll be back for a match day live before the Coppa Italia match against Merda. And it'll again be at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So live at 5, we'll start calling them, okay? So make sure you're around and get your thoughts in and comments as we get ready to face Merda again in another Derby d'Italia, this time in the Coppa Italia. And hopefully we can get some revenge. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Forza Juve.